Hey, what's up, guys? Time for an impromptu live stream. Let me drop the link here for those that are following along. We're basically going to be watching the ETH Hardfork. Where's the countdown page? Let me go to it here. And going to see, this is basically a few blocks away. It's at block on my other screen here. 5 blocks away. It's estimated to be about a minute away here from the Ethereum hard fork. It's going to be interesting to see how the volumes kick in here. Thanks for dropping that link there, Devin. Let me go ahead and tweet this out for everybody, but there's a lot of chatter right now. Is it going to be the dump, sell the news? Now, keep in mind, this is not a contentious hard fork, at least in theory. That's the plan. It's an upgrade to the blockchain, so there's not a chain split that is expected here. It's not your typical fork where there's a new coin creation, and so we're not looking for that, but we're just kind of seeing how the price action reacts, because generally these events can often be associated with a little bit of volatility here, as we've seen today. Holy smokes, these wicks are out of control here today. Shakeout, fake out, breakouts. We saw a little bit yesterday. I'm looking at the 5-minute charts, by the way, here, but if we zoom into some of this 4-hour chart action, we had the big wick yesterday, and then here this morning, it looked like it was rolling over again, and just a massive rally, and people FOMO'd in over 3,900, and then right back down. And there are some wild moves out there. And if you're trading, or if you're trying to maintain stops or anything like that, that can be incredibly frustrating to try to navigate that type of wild volatility. Just very, very undirectional, if you will, right? It's nice to see the shakeouts and then things take off in one direction, but man, we've not seen any kind of real clear direction here. It's just been mostly shaky. Wicked. It's wicked out there. So let me see here. One sec here. I'm going to pull some stuff up here, and then we'll get going. We'll take a look at a few other charts here while this thing going. But, you know, the prediction, if you will, the expectation is this has a false move to one direction and then breaks out the other way. I mean, overall, history shows that after the fork, prices do decide to pull in a little bit. So maybe we get the sell-off here. One sec here, guys. There it is. So it's at 72.80 is the fork. So that is now the block count. See if prices do begin to show any type of movement here. Let me pull it over to my other screen here. You can see the upgrade fork is now past the block. A couple other charts that we'll go ahead and take a look at here after this, but there are some decent setups out there if Bitcoin can stabilize here a little bit. So we'll dig a kind of a macro point of view here. I'm just going to keep an eye on these two charts here for the near term, just the next few minutes, see how these play out, if there's any type of volatility. But then we'll get into some of the other charts here, because there's some interesting charts that I wanted to take a look at, but I just man, with these wicks, I'm kind of hesitant, just kind of chilling out here for a little bit, holding BTC. But other than that, a lot of fake out breakouts. A couple on my list here before we get to the actual charts. ICX was looking pretty good. Dash was looking pretty good. Even Binance coin was kind of sitting tight here earlier. I'm watching Ontology trying to maybe break a downtrend. And so there's a few here. Chad says, we got forked. Yeah, I mean, in theory, right, best case scenario is like this is going to be a non-event, and it's just kind of moving on. And really, you can see prices have, you know, hasn't been the typical run up and then the dump into it. It's just ETH has been primarily just following Bitcoin, right? There was that big run up in early Feb, along with many other alts, EOS. You know, there was a handful, Binance, obviously. And then, of course, they just all followed suit. When Bitcoin broke lower, everything pulled back, and we've just been in this choppy range here for the last few days since then. It is end of month, by the way. So how will we end the month? We've got, I don't know what, about 6 hours left, not even 4 hours left before the close of the day. And that will also be the close of the month. Now, the month, honestly, I mean, it's kind of a, not really a thing I pay attention to that much, to be fair. The weekly I do, but not the monthly, just because the month it's kind of neat to look at the big picture. But I think just with the speed of crypto, generally, the weeklies have a little bit more impact. And so that's usually the high time frame that I watch. Anybody get wicked out in some of this action here today? That big old bar we saw earlier today, that was a very wide bar. I mean, if you look at the close of the prior bar, the shakedown went down about 1.5%, then went up about 2.5% before pulling right back in. It's just been crazy low here. All right, seen some volume coming in here. Here's the 5-minute view. Get some volume starting to push into this price here. Is it a fake out, shake out, breakouts? The pump and then the dump and then the pump. Oh man. We'll give it a few minutes, so we'll just keep an eye on these, and then I'll go ahead and we'll take a look at a few of the charts. This will be a quick live stream. I just figured, hey, why not get us on the stream going into this fork? And I'm not going to talk technical. I mean, I know a little bit about it, but I'm absolutely not the expert when it comes to this stuff. I know it's more of an upgrade. I know that's going to change the mining rewards. This will potentially take the project closer to the proof of stake scenario, which in theory should begin to drive up some, hoarding of the coin, if you will, and also create a little bit of scarcity if there's less being mined. That's kind of all the theory there. But at the end of the day, I'm just kind of watching the price action here, and that's really why I decided to get the stream going. You nailed that long move in BTC. Sweet. Very good to see that. Am I watching GDP? I've been trading stocks all morning here. I haven't done anything other than that. I've been keeping an eye on crypto, obviously, with this kind of coming up. And called the stock trading done today about an hour ago, and have just been kind of rehashing. It's kind of end of month, so I'm going to probably take the day off from trading tomorrow, do a little bit of assessments, a little bit of, how did it go, what went well, what went bad. There's always room for improvement, and that's what I'm generally trying to do, is trying to figure out, okay, what were the mistakes? What could I have done differently? What could I have done more of? And then I'll use that to kind of set some goals for things to work on in March. But, it wasn't a bad month. I mean, the stock market has been just straight up since the low in December. So it's been a nice January and February. Today was kind of a flat day. And in reality, I actually ended the day slightly in the red. It was just a kind of a choppy day, some gainers, some losers. Flat on the day, not a whole lot to worry about. So we're about 16 blocks in from the fork here. Fork happened 6 minutes and 19 seconds ago here. It's been a little volatility, nothing outrageous yet, but there is some volume kicking in here. BTC still looks like it wants to kind of pull back again. I mean, it had that rollover, but the last 2 times it's rolled over, it was quickly bought up. I mean, yesterday was kind of the big one. And very strong recovery, very nice to see. And then overnight, my time just kind of held here in this upper end of the range. And then today looked like it was trying to have another rollover and just quickly popped back up, and it's given most of that move up. So it's just been a pretty wild ride here. What's the Tesla news going to be today? No kidding. Man, that stock, there's always something going on with Tesla. If it's not some sort of SEC or lawsuit or crazy news about another car fire, it's a tweet gone wrong, an interview gone wrong, too much smoke in the room. Yeah, so the fork is done. If you're just joining, the fork happened 21 blocks ago. It was scheduled for block 7280, 7,280,000, and we just kind of saw that happen here. And so we are post fork here. So is Binance supporting the fork? So keep in mind, this is not expect it to be a chain split. The expectation here is that everybody will move over and support the upgrade. And so it's not a chain split. So there's not supposed to be new coins, if you will. ETH holders are not going to be getting a different coin, all that fun stuff. Of course, that means that's the expectation. If there is suddenly a bunch of miners decide to keep the old chain going and all that, and there's some sort of disagreement there for whatever reason, then it could result in that. But at this point, it says an upgrade, not necessarily a chain split fork that's going to result in two coins, a new one and the existing one. One sec here, hold on. Okay, sorry about that. I was taking a look at the other screen here. Let's go back to the charts here. We'll start looking through a few of these other names. Still watching ETH. I mean, in general, I'm leaning for some downside action. I was thinking we might see a quick pump post fork and then a sell-off. We'll see what plays out here over the next hour. Looks like it's starting to sell off here a little bit. This is the 5-minute view, of course. It's very granular. Keep that in mind. But we did see a little bit of volume kicking in just after the fork. BTC here on this 5-minute has just kind of been drifting lower here in the last hour or two, just after this wild action here early in the morning. Let's zoom out a little bit on both of these charts here. Something to take a look at. This is Bitcoin daily on the left. That's Coinbase. This is ETH on the right. That's USD Tether on Binance. So a little bit different here. Actually, you know what? Let me do ETH USD on Coinbase just to kind of keep things a little bit more congruent there. But you can see pretty much similar price action, right? They've been following BTC, but Bitcoin had that run. And so it's just been keeping up. Obviously, it's been outperforming from a percentage basis, so it is higher beta, but just kind of following Bitcoin's price action. There's some pluses and some minuses here to keep in mind, right? We had the big drop here, big volume, no doubt, technically did some damage to the charts. It's a big, ugly reversal from the top after a little bit of a breakout attempt. We were due for a pullback, right? It was anyone's guess when it would happen. We had that kind of third wave, that last exhaustion buying, and then the big reversal the next day, right into the weekly close. And the good news is that it did hold above some key support, right? This is what I was watching here, this prior base, and it did hold above that. It's also holding above the 50 EMA on the daily chart as well as the 22 EMA. It is technically still below the 10 EMA just because it was such a big drop, but the 10 EMA is still above the shorter term moving averages. And that's generally how I use these. What's the direction of moving averages? Are they moving upward? Are they stacked positively? All that good stuff. Now, if prices just linger here for another couple of days and begin to drift lower, that will begin to pull the 10 EMA lower, and then you can see a crossover, generally not a positive thing. So for now, that's the positive. They are kind of maintaining support there. On the negative, of course, we haven't seen much of a huge bounce, but following yesterday's big undercut of the low from Sunday, the quick reversal was very positive to see that the buying pressure stepped in right at this level, also above this support here, which didn't break. The two levels that I was watching yesterday were the top of this base here and then the low of that base there, so around 3550, and then just below 3700. And that was kind of what I was looking for, that area to be support. First that level, then the next level down. On the ETH side, we were talking about this on the Slack channel yesterday. I was looking for 127 was kind of that first level. And then 120, I think I said 120 or so, 125. And that's kind of the range, and didn't quite pull in that deep. So very similar price action all around. But now we got to see some upside follow through. But for now, it's positive that the buyers stepped in, but will they follow through to the upside? That's the big question here. Let me go back to the 15-minute chart. This is the 15-minute view on BTC, and you can see there's just been a lot of selling pressure, and it's not, it's not surprising in some regard, just because the drop on Sunday was just so dramatic. I mean, if you look at this hourly chart here, this right here trapped a lot of folks, right? Because it was just so quick, and anybody that was buying here towards the tail end of that move, they all got stuck here, and now they're kind of bag holders unless they sold out into the lows there. But there's going to be some bag holders that are holding from this last little run up that we had here for the last day. And so that's going to provide for some resistance on the way up. Of course, first resistance level is going to be this here, which we saw a little wick into that zone here today. And then above that, just shy of that 4K mark, which was that prior breakout points, a little bit of a psychological zone as well. And so this little window here certainly is going to be your next resistance level on the way up. If prices can continue higher, of course, and then there's just going to be some sellers going into that zone above that 4K level. And potential new short sellers coming in there. All right, let me go back to the ETH chart here, 5-minute view. So for those that are just joining, we did see the hard fork here a few minutes ago, about 13 minutes ago now. And so this is really the last little bit of action. It started there quickly after the fork, a little bit of pump, some volume came in, and then just quickly sold off. And so ideally, nothing happens, right? Becomes a little bit of a non-event, just kind of stabilizes. This is behind us, everyone's happy, and then it's kind of off to, all right, let's let the markets do what they're going to do now, and see if Bitcoin continues to sell off here. So still watching this general kind of bear flag, right? I mean, there was a couple of attempts here. There was this big washout low that we saw yesterday. Impressive recovery, to be fair. I mean, I was thinking we'd see a little bit of a bounce and then another rollover and make a new low. I was very surprised at how strong that recovery was, but was at the top that we saw here earlier today. That little wick, that FOMO wick that we saw was at the top. It's yet to be seen, but we may begin to see some more downside testing here now that we're past the little bit of fork. Got a lot of folks from the Slack group coming in. Thanks for being here, guys. Always good to have everybody here. This was a little bit of an impromptu live stream, some last minute views going into the fork here. We'll give it another, I don't know, 2 minutes or so, and then I will pull up some charts here. We'll take a look at some of these others. But overall, I think we were kind of expecting some selling pressure here. Let me turn off some of my alerts because I generally have quite a few on, and it's going to be beeping here if we start to get some movements here. So looks like there's a little bit of selling pressure coming in. The end is nigh. BTC is shaking everybody out, shaking out the sellers, shaking out the buyers. It's some wild action. Yeah, and that's what I was talking about. This fork, you know, generally is not expected to do much for pricing just because there isn't a new coin or anything like that. We're not expecting a dump. You know, the only thing that would happen is if there was a surprise, if there was a rebellion and some of the other folks decided to no, keep the old chain alive, or if they discovered, oh crap, we all adopted this upgrade and now there's another bug or something like that, you know. But they caught the last one just in time, right before they were about to implement it, which delayed this fork. If you guys remember, this was supposed to be done already, but there was a little bug in the upgrade. Luckily, they caught it beforehand. That would have been a disaster if it would have gone through that way. All right, I'm going to clear the double chart here. Let's get to a few other charts before we get to going here. So obviously, Bitcoin here, this is the hourly chart. Just some wild action. I mean, the higher time frame's your friend right now, just because of how this has all been playing out here over the last couple of days. And at the end of the day, I generally will like to look at the close of the hour or the candle, so the 4-hour close. And right now, the levels to be watching here in the near term, if it begins to close below this little support zone here, call it 37.70 basically, and then the low of that wick here that we saw this morning, 37.55. A close on the 4-hour below that, it's not going to look positive. It's going to look like that was a failed breakout attempt, and it's going to start rolling over. And so that's what I'm looking at on the 4-hour chart. Some of the other names here to be keeping an eye on, ICX, so Icon continues to be one of the stronger ones. Had a little breakout attempt, of course, with some of the BTC action. It's been very volatile here, but this is what I'm liking here, and I like this one more from the big picture, from the daily chart. So if we look at the daily chart, I mean, just a very big multi-month base that is being set up. This one did have a very nice false breakout with a positive divergence here in June or January, excuse me, quickly followed back up with some very strong volume. And the volume patterns here over the last couple of weeks have been very positive. Look how strong the buying volume has been on this way up. And so that's looking very good. And what I mean by that divergence here is you had that low back in here. Prices made a new relative low, and the RSI and the MACD were nowhere near as low during that. And so that was a positive little shakeout, broke that support, and then quickly recovered a few days later on volume. And so ICX is looking good. I'm liking this one more from kind of a larger time frame, not so much as a trade, but something over the next couple of weeks or so, maybe a pullback here, then another run into that support zone. But you're talking, through the month of March is basically what I'm looking at here. So definitely one I'm liking. I'm going to keep an eye on this one here. On the USD side, it's looking pretty decent as well. That USD tether chart hasn't officially broken out yet on a daily level. A close above this yellow line, basically around 29 cents. It's going to look very positive here. And again, the volume patterns are very bullish as well. You can see the accumulation that has been happening here over the last couple of weeks here, just been strong, marching up after recovering from that low. A little bit of a double bottom type of pattern here showing up on this chart. And this is really right at the neckline right now. So looking pretty good from that perspective, but keep in mind it is at support, or excuse me, not support, resistance. And this has been a resistance level multiple times. And so that's good and that's bad, right? Obviously, this is where we've seen selling pressure showing up. But if it can push through, that'd be a significant break higher, because that's really been resistance since the month of December, right? End of November was that last test there. And so looking pretty good here from that perspective. So ICX is one of the better setups here in terms of the bigger picture. Again, this is the daily view. So something I'd like to see here kind of in the broader picture, a measured move on this, if it was the double bottom, would be where this arrow is at. But you can see there's really not a lot of resistance for quite some ways up. So I think there's a possibility of this thing even running higher if it can break out. The measured move here takes it, it's about 35% to the top of that arrow, and really to the next major resistance level, you've got more than that. So something to keep an eye on here. Let me go back to ETH real quick. We'll just keep jumping into the ETH side of things, looking at the fork action. No dump just yet here. This is the hourly. Let's zoom in here a little bit. I'm looking at Coinbase here. This is the 5-minute chart. You can see how wild and choppy things have been here over the last day, but this is the 5-minute view. And I'm looking at about 133.50. If it begins to close below that, you could probably see prices accelerate. So we'll keep an eye on that here. It is done already. Yes, it is. So going back to the block watch here, you can see we're 65 blocks in. This was 22 minutes ago when we saw that last that official fork here. All right, let's take a look at some of these. Any names you guys want to take a look at real quick? If not, I'll just keep going here. Dash is another one I'm watching here from a daily time frame. Dash BTC, I'm liking the way this is setting up here. Here's the 4-hour view. The daily view is really what I'm liking here. Again, a big volume push. If you guys remember a couple of weeks back, well above average, had that breakout, and it's just kind of been flagging out since then, but it's right back to the breakout point. So if you look at this little double bottom that it had, so far, that's been where the support has been found. So that's positive to see that. A little bit of a bull flag. It's a little longer than I would have liked to see. I would have liked to generally see just a few days and then a rally higher. But nonetheless, the structure is there, something to keep an eye on. If it starts to push higher and begin to break out of this downtrend line, you could see another quick leg higher. And then above that, right, first level, of course, to be watching is that prior high here that we saw in mid-Feb. That's about, call it 2,300. And then above that, this confluence of resistance in and around there would be the next target to be watching. But this is Dash BTC, something I'm going to keep an eye on here because it is looking pretty good here on this consolidation. Of course, the market decides to roll over. That could certainly put a squash on this here. Looking at it from the Tether side here, let me take that off here. Not quite as strong on the dollar side, and it's still facing this resistance on this long-term downtrend line. You can see that's exactly where that last rally paused. So not quite as strong from that view. Ontology. Looking at Ontology, another one that has a similar price structure. Now, this one has already had a big run, and so a little bit extended, to be fair. If you look at the 4-hour RSI, it has had a lot of time to cool off, which is positive. but I'm watching this trend line here as it develops. Let me zoom in here a little bit for us. There we go. And keep an eye on this support here, which on the BTC pair is about that 2290 level in and around there. But ultimately, I want to see this trend line taken out, and I want to see it taken out with some conviction, right? Not a little slow grind higher. Ideally, you want to see a pop, strong move, and you want to see volume really start to come in. Notice how volume has really dried up here in this last little bit of the consolidation. Generally, a little bit of a telltale, but in this market, I'm not too inclined to preempt some of these moves, and I'd rather wait for that little initial pop higher and then go from there. So what I'm watching here, it's starting to really tighten up between support and this downtrend resistance. So we'll see if ONT can break out from there. On the Tether side, looking at it from ONT USD, similar structure there. Let me clear that out. You can see this consolidation is starting to flatten out here, right at that 50 EMA on the daily or the 4-hour chart here on the USD pair. So very similar price action here on ontology from both angles. So definitely one to be watching. All right, let me see here. Just checking out the comments here. One sec, guys. I'm seeing what other the names you guys want to look at. They all look the same. Yeah, they do. This market has been wild. BNB, another one I like here. Posted this one in the Slack group yesterday. For those of you that caught that, it is breaking this little downtrend line here and starting to push higher. A little bit of a bull flag showing up here over the last couple of candles on the 4-hour chart. Volume was positive on that move higher, so that is good news, and it's kind of holding up so far. And BNB has been one of the stronger names here as of late. Maybe done with this little consolidation here, found some support. So liking that one so far. BNB dollar, though, of course, not going to look quite as strong, but it is holding this little bit of a trend line, made a higher low again. We'll face some resistance here around that $11 mark, but all in all, the longer term trend is very much in favor of the bulls here. It is at basically all-time highs versus Bitcoin, but it's got a long ways to go here on the dollar chart, of course, and most of these do. But major resistance here on Binance is just shy of 12 bucks here on the dollar chart. So that's going to be the key level I'm going to be watching here as it runs into that, if it runs into that. VeChain. Yeah, VeChain has been testing my patience here. I've been watching this one for a couple of weeks, thinking, man, this one's set for a breakout. It's just been building this long base here at the lows. And if you look at the order book here on the BTC side, it's crazy how it's just stacked on both sides. There's some big BTC orders on both the buy and the sell, and at the lower time frames, this thing doesn't really move a whole lot. But on the USD side, obviously it has a little bit more fluid movement from that perspective because it's not a low set. It's such a low set name, but still a breakout name here, a potential breakout candidate in the larger time frames here. So this is the daily chart, VeChain USD. Definitely one I'm keeping an eye on too. All right. Ripple. We'll take a look at Ripple. Dollar. Let's go Ripple dollar. And so I've been talking about just kind of this broader downtrend. You'll see it on the BTC side. It's wedging. It's right now technically feeling like a little bit of a descending triangle, not the most bullish chart here, just kind of drifting lower. The positive is it's finding some support right around that 28-cent mark. So that's got to really hold. But ultimately, I want to see some upward momentum on this guy. If you look at it from the Bitcoin perspective, and of course, there was the Coinbase ad, which, I mean, for you Ripple fans out there, no offense, but this was one of the weakest Coinbase pumps that I have seen. Oh my goodness. It was like, here it is. It's on Coinbase. Just really, that was it. I mean, the Ripple army has been waiting for Coinbase for an eternity, it feels like. And that was it. So, just generally speaking, I'm just not leaning in favor of this one here. I did a little quick scalp trade on that during the pump day, but other than that, it's just been a laggard and continues to be so. So until that changes, just gonna wait on that one. Neo, back to the breakout point here on the Neo BTC pair. And Neo, so the good and the bad here, like I like the fact that this one broke out, had that nice move higher, and then is pulling right back in on lower volume, and it is holding right above that breakout point. The bad here, though, and I know this was associated with the breakdown on Bitcoin, but look at that volume here right at the top. I mean, that's an ugly candle, big reversal bar. Generally don't like to see that. Usually means kind of it's going to be drifting lower for a little bit, but if it begins to hold up here and we see some stronger buying volume coming back in, I may take a look at this one here because it is holding above this breakout point so far. And so that one's looking good, especially if ontology can get going. Very often you'll notice these two will run together. And so I'll keep an eye on that one if ONT starts to take off. But right now, I would lean in favor of ONT just because of the, has more relative strength as of late anyway. And you can see here on the dollar side, this one, again, rejected this breakout. This is a failed breakout. Ton of volume came in and right around that $9 mark. So it's got to get back above there and start closing above that. And then maybe it'll start to look a little bit better there. Let's see here. BTC. Anything going on in Bitcoin land? This is a 5-minute view, very granular look here. Considering these wild wicks we've seen here today. Just wild wicks, my goodness. All right, we'll do a few more here. I did ICX already. Let me see here. You guys are asking about some of these other names. Ripple, Neo. We'll take a look at ETH again. VeChain. Cool. All right. I think that was all I had on my list here. I had a small short list. We covered Dash, Neo, on VeChain. Let's take a look at Cardano. See how that one's looking here as of late. We'll take that guy off. It was setting up here, just hasn't followed through yet. Kind of just sitting flat here now, so not a whole lot to do. It's getting a little symmetrical. You can see you got the high here and got this low, maybe a lower high, but it's got to make a higher low and then start to take out this 1230 level. Then maybe we'll get going again. Lumens, Stellar Lumens, Stellar. Oh, Stellar. So Stellar, I was looking for a potential low. That may have been the bounce. Maybe that was it. So I was talking about this weekly wicks that we saw back here last March. Prices are basically right back to where they were last March. Now this is on the BTC pair, of course, and had a little bit of a bounce. Let me zoom in here, but was very minor, very short-lived. I thought, hey, this one's going to finally get going, and just still under pressure, kind of just rolling over. Did see a little action when Ripple was listed on Binance or on Coinbase, excuse me. You did see a little bit of action on this guy here, but has just kind of fizzled out. So not a whole lot yet. Has it found a low? Maybe, right? Ideally, what you want to see here on the long-term view is this low here not to be undercut. Ideally, a higher low right around this level, and then start going from here would be nice because it would really start to turn the picture a little bit more positive in the longer term. But man, what a drop this one has had here in the big picture. If you look at this, is where I was liking it back here, was looking like it was about to break out long-term chart and just really rolled over and maybe making a higher low. But right now, not looking too hot. These charts give me depression. I know, right? I hear you. Stellar QKC. Sorry about that. Give me one sec here. I'm typing in my other box here, and then we will get back to that here. First, let me pull something up. We'll take a look at the alerts here and see if there's anything else potentially popping up on the screen. Digix Dow. Haven't looked at Digix Dow. We'll take a look at that one here. And I am working on that gold trading and precious metals trading and investing video, so I'll be releasing that here in the next few days for you guys. It's going to obviously be non-crypto, but it's going to be just kind of more informational, like what are the different options and ways to potentially capitalize on movements in the precious metal market. So not a lot of movement here. On the top of the list here today, Zemcash, Steam, Syndicate, RCN, Reveal Credits, Ravencoin, ADEX, all these small cap names. Numier, oh my goodness, there's a name from yesteryear. If, you know, generally when it's like that, that's the quality of names on this list. It just kind of tells you a little bit about the markets. That's not too hot there. So looking at QKC here, it did have that little wick here a few days back, but it's just kind of popping back and still living below the line here. This is, you know, similar to what I'm seeing on Ripple, where it's just making these series of lower highs. Until that changes, you know, I'm just real cautious with names like this. This is a market where there are some names that are much stronger than others. And generally speaking, I will bet on strength unless I see those longer term bases starting to be set, like what we saw in VeChain, right, where it's finally building this long term kind of low. Then I may be a little bit more preemptive there. But when I'm seeing something kind of drift lower, I would rather wait until it starts to prove itself, pushing higher, maybe making a higher low, and then starting to go and, you know, and catching the momentum. I'm not so much concerned about getting the value and getting the absolute lowest price as much as I am getting in at the best time, if you will. Litecoin. How does Litecoin look? Look at the Litecoin BTC. Look at completely different looking chart there. You know, you got one that's going from 11 o'clock to 4 o'clock, and this one's doing the opposite, right? And this is ideally what I mean betting on strength and looking for those names that have had that run, that are pushing higher, maybe consolidating here near the highs. And I'm still liking Litecoin here. I mean, it is kind of just taking a breather. I've been talking about how it was due for a breather, and we pretty much saw it peak out early Feb, and it's just kind of been pausing here, but hasn't really rolled over yet. So as long as this continues to maintain, looking pretty good, maybe setting the stage for another run higher into March. Litecoin dollar, where's the next resistance levels here? So look at that. Look at where it paused, right? The target here was around 47 bucks was that next target, and it did overshoot a little bit, but it had some trouble staying up there during the big pullback early this week. Landed around 43 bucks, so still holding up relatively well. Now, what you don't want to see this, obviously, is this turn into a little head and shoulder pattern that undercuts, what is that, 40 bucks? If it starts to lose 40 bucks, could roll over pretty quickly from there. So that's something to be watching there on the Litecoin chart. EOS. EOS, another one that was super strong in February. Let me clear all my markups here real quick. But, you know, EOS so far still making a higher low. Now it's going to have a lot of resistance. That was an ugly reversal there. 3 days of some high volume action on the way down. Not looking positive. Personally, I think you probably see a little bit of a lower high if it does rally, and then a deeper pullback. So I'm looking for maybe 2 legs on the way down, a little bit of a bounce, maybe a second pullback around here would be where I'd be watching it. If it can start to settle out in and around this level, then that may set up, you know, another run here. But it needs some time to cool off. This has just been such a strong runner. Look at the daily chart, was just way overdone from the RSI perspective. Finally cooling off a little bit. So, but big picture though, I mean, you got to give this one benefit of the doubt as well. It is one of the stronger names right now. All right. What time is it? We've been going just about a half an hour here, so I'm going to go ahead and run through maybe 3 more names, and then we will call it a stream here. Before you guys do that, let me see what the BTC is looking like. Like my arrows are. Just not a whole lot happening here. Just it was pretty wild this morning, but just kind of sitting tight right now. Let me see what else is on the list here. Raven, Theta. Somebody asked for Theta, and oh man, Theta has given so many good chances to jump on, and I have just not taken it seriously. It just keeps popping up on the alerts, and I'm going, wow, that's nice. Wow, that's nice. Had this big breakout. We looked at this one on the live stream on Monday, And I was pointing out how I had just broken out, looking for a little pullback to the line. And I think my target was like right here. Look at just what a run Theta has had. And I did not take that. For whatever reason, I just lost track of this one, and has been a nice one. It's a little long in the tooth now, to be fair. I mean, it's been a multi-week runner. And so would I be chasing it here at this point? I'm not so sure, especially, considering that it's basically at the all-time highs versus Bitcoin. Generally, it makes sense either that they break higher and then consolidate just above, or they pause just below, consolidate here, let things kind of digest this move a little bit. But man, what a nice move this one has been. Sonam. Haven't looked at that one in a while. I know you keep thinking it's frozen. No movement on BTC or ETH. Digix DAO. Let's see. I haven't looked at this guy in a while. This one's generally too wiki for me. I notice it has these attempts to run higher, but it's just been a long grind lower for this guy. Maybe finding a low here. There's a little bit of a low that it sets back here in November, December, retesting that level right now, but not something I like right now. It's not particularly bullish looking chart here, to be honest. Okay. So there's a question there. Is the fork already done? Yeah, the block that it was scheduled for was right here. You can see we're already 126 blocks in. Digibyte. All right, we'll do Digibyte. Loom, KNC. Okay, we'll take a look at a few more. I know I said 3, but if we do them quickly, we'll run through them, and then we'll call it a day here. Not on that one. Here we go. Keeper Network. Wow, I haven't looked at this guy in a while. That daily chart's finally going flat there. Maybe it's found a low at least. Interesting. This is a another one of the Coinbase ads, but yeah, who knows? Maybe it is finding a little bit of a low here. I mean, it's finding some resistance here. You can see since mid-December, that's been the place where there's been several attempts to run at it. So ideally, that's what you want to see it take out. But right now, it is forming a little bit of a low, a little bit of a base, some big volume coming in here. I know that's maybe associated with Coinbase, but could be a big mover here if it breaks higher. KNC, long time chart. Man, so many of these names, too, are in the big picture, like right at these long time lows, multi-month. And, it's one thing to guess the bottom and catch the falling knife, if you will. But when I start to see these charts kind of putting in these long-term bases at the lows, especially for projects that you believe in longer term, got to start paying attention to those. I'm looking at a lot of these. Mana was one of those. Let's go to Mana real quick. Had that nice little pop earlier this week on some news, but this is one that I like long term, and I've noticed this one also putting in some, right back at these lows here from August, hitting there. Some big volume came in here on that news, but still, this is one that I was looking at. And I got lucky. It wasn't a whole lot, luckily or unfortunately, but I actually bought some Mana the day before that pop on the news. Switched out some residual Ripple that I had and said, you know what, I'm going to add some more Mana here. And caught that little move here, but I think I'm holding it more for a longer term at this point, not so much a trade. Would have made for a nice trade though. Tron. Just Tron's been the same story here for a few weeks, just kind of still drifting lower here after that first, it didn't even hold up into the airdrop, right? The airdrop was on the 11th, had already started to sell off well into that, and has just continued to drift lower, still holding up above this support, but, just not looking too good versus BTC here. Tron on USD. At least this on this chart is sitting flat, but that's mostly been because Bitcoin was strong this month and Tron was kind of drifting lower, so it offset some of that. Let's see here. Sonam. Some small cap names here, but yeah. Is it done? Is it done going down? Maybe. Who knows? There's no evidence of that yet. It is finding a little bit of a low, but these are still lower highs, so got to see it take out a recent high and then maybe put in a base and a higher low. But man, Sonam. At least it's kind of going flat finally. You're seeing a lot of more volume coming in on some of these. Loom. One base name. Loom's looking good here. Look at that long time base it finally put in. Turning the corner. A lot of volume starting to show up here 2 days ago, 3 days ago. Good action there. See if it can hold up. But look at that wick though. Man, oh man, that was a big wick there with that volume. Let's zoom in a little bit on that guy. There's the hourly chart here. So yeah, it's already had a little bit of a move here today. Nice. Boom. Not fetching any fetch. No, I haven't fetched any fetch. Have you? All right, let's take a look at BTC here. Is it pulling back here a little bit? Bitcoin only likes to move in 5-minute increments, and then it goes tight for 3 days, and then it moves in 5 minutes. Digibyte. It is. Sorry, zooming out. Oh, is it finally breaking that downtrend? I think somebody was asking me about this one in the last live stream, and I was talking about how it's just kind of making these lower highs. It is finding some support there. Maybe it's finally turning the corner. Hey, that's pretty good. Good to see that it's attempting a low here finally. So if you like Digibyte, yeah, this is, ideally now there's a line in the sand drawn, right, where that's your double bottom attempt here, this little low right there, and that's what you got to see hold, and which I would like to see is maybe a pullback or retest of that breakout point and then get going there. So Digibyte, maybe, just maybe. Stratus, let me clear that. Stratus, yeah. Gonna wait on Stratus here, see if we can pop above this little consolidation here. Waves, man, remember that move Waves had? What a move. What a strong move it was. Yeah, it's still kind of holding above this support, but right now that's just looking like it's making lower highs, so I'm going to be cautious here. Right at support. Looks like it may want to crack here. Let me take a quick look at the stock market. I know it's about to close here. Some of you guys were asking about that last time, doing a quick analysis on that. Everyone's talking about this big run that we've had here in January. You had that basically massive V bottom off the lows here and running right into this resistance on the SPYs right at that 280 level. And we had an interesting week here. It's been a slow week, to be fair. I mean, this week was a little bit flat, choppy, and not, there was some decent moves to be had, but it was generally a slower week. And what I found interesting on the SPY, which it hasn't recovered from, was it had a breakout. It gapped up at the open on Monday and then just turned red, right? So it was a gap up, breakout, and then pulled right back from that resistance zone and has just drifted lower. Still green on the days, but it's just kind of drifted lower here for the last few days. Still holding up above the trend, still holding up above moving averages. The buyers are still in control. Even today, I saw quite a few buy-ups of the dips. Every time you would try to pull back, you saw the buyers stepping in. So that's going to be interesting to watch. But there's a couple of catalysts on the table here. Obviously, the trade wars, the tariff discussion, and all that stuff. If there's any resolution on that, that's going to be interesting because barring any sort of like amazing deal that's great for the world and great for everybody, which, I mean, come on, we're talking politicians here. How likely is that? And most likely there'll be some sort of deal. It's going to be less than spectacular, kind of ho-hum. But, assuming there's a awesome deal, then yeah, you could have a nice big breakout, a quick rally, short squeeze. But really what I'm looking for is you'll get a spike higher, everybody gets excited, suck in the last of the longs, and then we'll start to roll over. And so that's kind of the camp I'm in, looking at that potential breakout, fake out, shake out on the stock market side. And then from there, we'll see how far the retracement lands if it gets going from there. So interesting to see here. Now, we could just as likely roll over from here and pull back, but for now, the trend is your friend. You got to go with it. Looking at the gold market here real quick. We pull up metals. I've been watching this. They've been pulling in, and they needed to. They were right at resistance. They were a little bit overheated. You can see they were seeing some divergences showing up here. And so I was kind of expecting a little bit of a pullback. You've seen that finally happen here. And this really peaked on the day of the FOMC meetings that was released last week. And you can see it's been pulling back since then every day. But the big picture, I think, is still very positive. I'm looking at gold. So looking at see if maybe we can hit this trend line and then begin to find a low. But I'm going to just be keeping an eye on it for now. Just been trading a little bit of the dust and the nuggets. So for those that are not familiar, the dust is a leveraged ETF. And I don't hold this on overnight. It's just kind of nice for day trading. If you look at the quick charts, you can get some pretty decent moves on these kind of moves here. All right. Let's see here. So Litecoin, we did Litecoin. Do I think it's going to get some positive up moves today since it hasn't dumped? It could. I mean, I think there was some trepidation here with BTC and ETH, until some of this is taken out just because of the uncertainty. But if it holds up, I'm still looking at the alts. And in fact, I'm thinking the majors will continue to take a breather, take a little bit of a pause, and I think we'll see some more moves in some of the small cap land like we've been seeing here as of late. And so that's kind of what I'm looking at, maybe some of the smaller names, but there's been some good ones like BNB I mentioned here. BNB Bitcoin looks good, Dash looks good. And so I'm thinking these might be some good alternatives, but some of the smaller cap names could also be good. I was looking at GoChain yesterday. Go is kind of testing this resistance here, seeing if it can maybe break out. Obviously, we looked at Theta. What were some of the other names here? All right, PVP. It looks like you're spamming here, so. All right, let's see. PTT. Yeah, no dice there. So yeah, some of the smaller ones here. Facebook is about to get into crypto for good, huh? Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of surprised they haven't already. And and it's always interesting when you see these partnerships, right? Like people that are using the Amazon web service platforms, blockchain in a box, all that good stuff. Those are great. Those are positive, right? But at the end of the day, I mean, let's be honest, right? Companies like IBM with their partnerships and Amazon and Facebooks and Googles of the world, I mean, they may partner with some of these crypto projects to learn from them, but at the end of the day, they're not going to run their infrastructure on some of these public blockchains. They're going to create their own, and they're going to manage their own. And so, I mean, that's just my opinion. They'll have their own coins. They'll have their own blockchains. I mean, why would a Facebook or a Amazon or anybody go with EOS or go with some of those, right? I mean, that's just my opinion. All right, let's look at a few more here. And then I will stop my rambling and go grab some lunch. It is almost 2 o'clock. I guess I should eat. Skycoin, yeesh. Ravencoin, Wolton icon. All right. I'll just quickly cycle through some of these here. Raven. Nice little move on Raven here. Last couple of days. 8X, that's a name from yesteryear. Not too shabby. What were the other ones? It's already saw we saw this one, so that one, Gifto, GTO. Gifto. All right, so there you have it. There's a few ones out there. So just to kind of recap, some of the better ones that I liked here. Dash is probably at the top of my list right now. Binance Coin for a potential move higher here, looking like it broke out of this downtrend today, flagging right now. What was the other one? Icon we looked at the start. I do like Icon, has edged out above some resistance. I like this one more from a longer term point of view as opposed to a quicker trade over the next few weeks when looking good. Ontology has been strong as of late. Will it continue? Is this the end of the consolidation? Yet to be seen, but I'm keeping an eye on this trend line, see if it can break out. And VeChain, another one, kind of bigger picture. VeChain putting in a base potentially long-term low. See if it can finally, sorry, BTC. There we go. The longer picture looks pretty good on VeChain here, so that's another name that I'm watching here. So there's been a few. Yep, I'm in Arizona. Okay. Let me see here. Maker. We'll take a look at that one, but that's it. Oh, Maker die. Maker die. And this one just continues to run, doesn't it? No, I'm not going to lie. I was kind of surprised when Coinbase added this one. When they put it on their list. But anyway, there's Maker dollar. That is looking good. She's looking good. Never have to worry about time zone changes. I know, I love that. Although technically I do, because everyone else changes, so I got to know where people are at. And then half the year, the stock market opens at my 6:30 a.m. So summer days start early. Yeesh. At least I get to sleep in a little bit in the winter. Nano, man, Nano. All right. Well, that's going to do it for today, guys. Kind of sitting tight here. I'm sure as soon as I end the stream, we're going to see another big $300 wick on this 5-minute chart. But hey, enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy the rest of the week. And I will see you all in the next one. Thanks for being here, guys. Take care, everyone.